And in this video what we're going to do is we're going to create a peer-to-peer net. And as you can see, I've got two computers. I've got a little Acer Aspire laptop that's years old and is working on Windows Vista, and I've got a rather larger desktop computer, the Chieftain. You won't be able to see the desktop computer because it's on the floor, as there isn't a great deal of space here when it's on the table. So we're going to open a little application I've made in Visual Basic 2008 that runs a network that will allow the laptop and the big computer, the Chieftain, to communicate with each other in the form of messages, rather like a text messaging service. So I'm going to get back behind the camera so that we can see the computers, and we'll see what it's all about. Now what you'll see, if we zoom into the Acer, is I run a CMD so that I can see what the IP address is. The Acer is going to be the remote computer, so I don't really need to know the IP address of that, but for testing purposes it's handy, and as you can see it's 192.168.167. And if I turn it to the Chieftain, or rather the screen of the Chieftain, you can see the IP address there is 192.168.175. The subnet mask is a Class C on both, and so therefore we know it's on the same network, 192.168.1, and the Acer is device 67 and the Chieftain is device 75. That's good. We're going to need it to be on the same network to do what we want. So let's come out a bit so that we can see the screens. Okay. I don't know if you'll see it properly with the resolution of this camera, but we'll zoom in and have a look. And just there is the application I've made, and it's called Gossip. And the same on the Chieftain. If we go just past CMD, the command prompt box, there's the same application, Gossip. So we're going to open it on the Chieftain and see what happens. If you've seen videos of mine in the past, you'll know it's called the Chieftain because in general build it's rather like a tank. So let's open Gossip and see what goes on. And we end up with a little interface, and I'm going to zoom in on the interface so you can see it and see what it's all about. Up here we've got a box, and that's where you're allowed to put your name in. So I'm going to call this one Chieftain. Okay, got a slightly bigger box here, and that's where all the messages received are displayed. We've got a slightly smaller text box here, and that's where you type in the message you want to send. Down here we've got a box in which you can put the IP address for the host in, and this is the listening port. Now the listening port can be very random. I've got it at 65,000 because at the top end like that they don't tend to be used very often. You get ports like 23, which is Telnet, and 80, which is HTTP. 65,000 isn't really used very much, so I'm pretty safe and secure in not breaking anything else with that. So I'm going to leave it as it is. You can either have a host or a remote, and here the Chieftain's going to be the host. So I'm going to put in the Chieftain's own IP address, 192.168.175. And having done that, I'm going over here before I do anything else, and I'm going to open Gossip on the little Acer Aspire. And there it is. We have exactly the same interface But what I need to do, because this is going to be the remote, I need to put the chieftain's IP address in here. So let's do it. 192.168.1.75. Okay, before I do anything else, back to the chieftain. The chieftain, as I said, is going to be the host. And so, given that, I want the camera to zoom out. Dreadfully sorry about that, I appear to be pressing the wrong buttons there. Given that, I'm going to click this button here that says host to make the chieftain the host. Okay, and I'm going to click the button that says connect on the Acer Aspire, and hopefully what we should see happening in this box here is that it will come up with the message connected to 192.168.167, which is the Acer's IP address. Bingo! And what's happened over at the Acer? It says connected to host. Well, it looks as though we're on a roll then. So now I'm going to type a message in. Let's just zoom in on the message box a little bit so we can see what I'm typing. Okay. And I'm going to type in hello Acer, how are you today? Now in a moment I'll hit this button that says send. I'm going to swing the camera around to the interface on the Acer, and I will one day learn to press the right buttons on this camera. I'm dreadfully sorry. Okay, now what we want to be looking at is this bit here, because I'm going to hit the send button now and let's see what happens. There we go. The chieftain says, hello Acer, how are you today? So, do it the other way round, and we're going to put hello chieftain, very well, thank you, if suffering from something of a bit of a dirty keyboard. Really must clean this keyboard, it's disgusting. And I spelled keyboard wrong, I spelt it with an R. Oh well, let's see what happens. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the send button on this now. And let's see if the chieftain's got it. Just zoom in a bit. A dirty cryboard. Oh well. And that's it. That's really how we make a peer-to-peer system. And all it's doing is sending messages between the two. I'll do another one just to prove it. So let's send one from the chieftain to the Acer. Tell that lazy in to clean it. And hit the send button. And there we are, it's picked it up. Excellent piece of kit. So, Let's have a quick look at how we've achieved this, and I will put the code under the comments in this film. And when it was done, was with a VBE even, Visual Basic Express 2008, which is this chappy here. So just zoom in a little bit. Wait for the resolution to settle down, which it's not going to. This chap, VBE 2008, and here's the actual window for it. And as you can see, there's the form, the design. Okay, let's just click on something. Here's the code. Now, the important thing here, we go back. The important thing here is this chap I've highlighted. It's the WINSOCK component. Let's just zoom in on it a little bit. It's a WINSOCK component, and basically what it allows you to do is it allows to send messages and files and anything you want, really, if you set it up properly, through TCP/IP protocols. Very, very easy to use. If we look at some code behind it, let's zoom out a little bit so we can actually see that code. Now, when it gets a connection request, what it does is it takes this line and it looks to see if it's not closed before, and if it is, it closes it, otherwise it won't be able to accept anything else. So, once it's done that, it can accept a request from an incoming IP address, and in this case that was, as you saw, 192.168.167. And all we have to do then is display what that incoming IP address is and send to the remote, in this case the ASA, the fact that it's connected to the host, and that will appear. And as you can see, because I've left the ASA one up, a bit there that says connected to host is what that line does. Alright, back to the code. There are two parts to this, and you might be able to see if I zoom out that there is a control event here, the connection request. Once it's connected, it's got to wait for data, and that's what this bit does, the data arrival. Once we've got the data, we turn the data into a string, in this line here, sets up the variable for turning the data into a string, and this line here gets the data from the WINSOCK component, turns it into a string, and gives it a maximum character length of 255. We can increase or decrease that character length as we want. If we have Twitter messages, we'd only have 140 characters. We're a little better than Twitter, but then what isn't? And we've got txt_log.text equals txt_log.text plus data plus VBR CRLF. Okay, that's a bit confusing. txt_log.text means make the text that's in the text box that shows the messages displayed equal to the text that's already in there plus the data that's coming through the WINSOCK plus a carriage return, and it's as easy as that. There's one more little bit that I need to show you. If we go back there and find it, it's on the host and the connect. Okay, so this is what happens when it becomes a host. Gives it the local port that you've typed into the port box. In this case it was 65,000, and it tells it to listen on that port for data incoming. If you don't put that in, you'll never receive anything. So you always got to listen. Basically, it's a poll, and if it sees any data, then it acts. And if you have it as the remote, you'll be pressing this button, the connect button, and then you tell it to go onto the IP address of the host, which in this case was the Chieftain, and I can't quite remember what the IP address for the Chieftain was. 192.168.1 something, 175 I think it was. Yep. You have to be on the same remote port. Has to listen on the same remote port. Doesn't work otherwise, and not being a programmer per se, I'm not quite sure why, but it just doesn't do it. And then it'll connect to the host. Piece of cake. And as you've seen, all of that works to produce an interface that we can send messages between two devices, and that is the very essence of a peer-to-peer network, and that means that the job is done and we can go and have a cup of tea and a Mr. Players.